Welcome back to WION World is One. You're watching Speed News with me, Vidur Kathuria. Let's get started. Bangladesh is voting in its first election since the 2024 uprising that led to the collapse of Sheikh Hasina's government after nearly a decade and a half in power and ushered in an interim administration. With Awami League barred from contesting, there are two major political forces vying for victory in these elections: BNP, led by former PM Khaleda Zia's son, and coalition of Islamist parties led by Jamaat-e-Islami. Opinion polls vary widely, though most give BNP the lead, with some suggesting a knife-edge race. Interim leader Mohammad Yunus, who will step down after the polls, said the election will determine the future direction of the country. US Vice President J.D. Vance said there is another option on the table if Washington fails to reach a deal with Tehran to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. Vance said President Donald Trump directed his team to pursue a deal ensuring the Iranians don't have a nuclear weapon, but would preserve his options if negotiations fail. He added the US has the most powerful military in the world. He said talks would continue unless the president decides otherwise. Asked about regime change, Vance said that would be up to the Iranian people, stressing that the administration's focus remains on ensuring Iran cannot develop a nuclear weapon. US President Donald Trump told Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House that talks with Iran must continue, rebuffing the Israeli Prime Minister's push for a tougher stance against Tehran, seeking to push for the Islamic Republic's ballistic missile program to be included in any deal. Netanyahu had rushed to Washington for his 7th meeting with Trump since the US leader returned to power. During his visit to Washington, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirmed that Israel will join US President Donald Trump's Board of Peace. Netanyahu met Trump and US Secretary of State Marco Rubio during his visit. A UN Security Council resolution adopted in mid-November authorized the board and countries working with it to establish an international stabilization force in Gaza, where a fragile ceasefire began in October under a Trump plan on which Israel and Palestinian militant group Hamas signed off. Under Trump's Gaza plan, the board was meant to supervise Gaza's temporary governance. Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te warned that countries in the region would be China's next targets should Beijing seize the democratic island. This as he insisted on the need for Taiwan to dramatically shore up its defenses. In his first interview with a global news agency since taking office in May 2024, Mr. Lai said he was confident Parliament will approve an additional $40 billion budget to fund crucial defense purchases, including weapons from the United States. Meanwhile, China's President Xi Jinping has warned Washington against selling weapons to Taiwan. However, Lai said the United States will stand by Taiwan. A day after a horrific mass shooting, one of the deadliest in Canadian history, rocked a high school in British Columbia, the police have now identified the suspected shooter as an 18-year-old woman believed to have been battling mental health issues. The suspect, who police named as Jessie Van Root Sellard, committed suicide after shooting in Tumbler Ridge, killing at least 8 people. Authorities have further clarified the total death toll in the incident stands at 9, including the suspect. A neighbor of a daughter of missing woman Nancy Guthrie revealed that FBI agents asked her during a search in an area of Arizona. Ann Adams, Annie Guthrie's next-door neighbor, said she answered general questions by agents who wanted to look around the property. The FBI agents were earlier seen walking among rocks and desert vegetation at Guthrie's Tucson area home. They also fanned out across the neighborhood about 1.6 kilometers away, knocking on doors and searching through cactuses, bushes and boulders. Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie, disappeared on February 1st. A person was briefly detained for questioning. Germany aims to significantly expand economic and energy ties with Central Asian nations. Speaking to reporters in Berlin after meeting with his Central Asian counterparts, German Foreign Minister Johann Wadephul emphasized that Europe must develop new partnership in response to shifting geopolitical realities. He stressed that Central Asian nations must do more to follow sanctions against Russia and called on all partners to support efforts to end Russia's war in Ukraine. Venezuela's Attorney General said he hopes an amnesty law being considered by the National Assembly legislature will benefit all the actors. This while insisting those in prison are not political detainees. Interim President Delcy Rodriguez, who took power last month after the U.S. ouster of President Nicolas Maduro, has bowed to Trump administration demands on oil sales and released hundreds of human rights groups classed as political prisoners as part of normalization of ties between two countries. A complete version of the amnesty law has not yet been read in full in the legislature headed by Jorge Rodriguez, though it has passed an initial vote. The U.S. House of Representatives has voted to rescind U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs on Canadian goods in a 2019 to 211 vote. 6 Republican lawmakers joined Democrats to back a resolution that seeks to end the tariffs Trump imposed on Canada last year. The vote is largely symbolic as it will still need to be approved by the U.S. Senate and then approved by Trump, who is very unlikely to sign it into law. Since his re-election, Trump has imposed a series of tariffs on Canada, recently threatening a 100% import tax in response to Canada's proposed trade deal with China. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi repeatedly clashed with Democratic lawmakers while testifying before House Judiciary Committee. Bondi faces criticism over Justice Department's release and the Trump administration's handling of the Epstein files, with lawmakers accusing her of a cover-up. One of the lawmakers tore into her over the number of redactions in the released files, including blacking out the name of billionaire Les Wexner, whom the FBI once referred to as an Epstein co-conspirator. Five police officers were killed in an ambush by militants on the outskirts of Dera Ismail Khan in northwest Pakistan. The attack occurred as officers were returning from an operation against suspected militants when gunmen hiding in a forest opened fire. Police said 4 militants were killed in retaliatory action. The wounded officers were transported to teaching hospital in Dera Ismail Khan for treatment. No group has claimed responsibility yet. Spanish farmers have driven approximately 500 tractors through Madrid to protest against low incomes and an EU trade deal with South America. The protest caused traffic disruptions as the tractors moved toward the Ministry of Agriculture. Farmers are demanding immediate action to protect Spanish food security. They say rising costs and strict regulations are squeezing their earnings. They also oppose the EU-Mercosur trade deal, fearing it will flood the market with cheaper imports. Activists under the banner of the Alternative Mining Indaba marched outside the main mining conference in Cape Town. They urged governments and mining companies to do more to protect communities affected by mineral extraction. The group argued that the annual gathering of mining executives and investors continues to overlook the environmental and social costs borne by communities across Africa. Among the protesters were residents from mining regions across the continent, including Zambia's Copper Belt, where communities say the pollution has damaged their health and livelihoods. A group of protesters threw stones and Molotov cocktails at riot police in front of the Argentine Congress. Officers responded with tear gas and water cannons as thousands of people protested against ultra-liberal President Javier Milei's labor reform being debated in the Senate. Milei pushed for a free market agenda, arguing that Argentina's current labor laws are too restrictive and dissuade employers from on-the-books hiring. Almost 40% of Argentine workers lack formal employment contracts, but unions say the reforms erode workers' rights. Mexican health minister said that at least 28 people in the country have died from the measles outbreak that began in 2025. According to official data, authorities have registered 9,074 cases so far. Mexico has 28 million measles vaccines to distribute, which President Claudia Sheinbaum said are sufficient, and there will even be some left over. The data also shows the country has 6.7 cumulative cases of measles per 100,000 inhabitants. The Mexico City government has deployed 300 brigades and set up 124 vaccination booths in public spaces such as metro stations, markets and parks. Citizens can use an app to find the closest site. Heavy rains that have long battered Portugal flooded several rural areas in the north, leaving levees at risk of bursting around the medieval city of Coimbra and forcing authorities to evacuate some 3,000 residents as a precaution. A succession of deadly storms has hammered mostly central and southern parts of the country since late January, blowing roofs off houses, flooding several towns and leaving hundreds of thousands without electricity for days. At least 15 people have died as a consequence of the storms, including indirect victims. A team of researchers warn human-caused climate change had an important impact on the recent ferocious wildfires that engulfed parts of Chile and Argentina's Patagonia region, making the extremely high-risk conditions that led to widespread burning up to 3 times more likely than in a world without global warming. According to World Weather Attribution, a scientific initiative that investigates extreme weather events, the hot, dry and gusty weather that fed last month's deadly wildfires in central and southern Chile was made around 200% more likely by human-made greenhouse gas emissions. Researchers add this will extend as humans continue to burn fossil fuels. The blazes that tore through Chile's Biobío and Ñuble regions killed 23 people. Chinese President Xi Jinping visited primary-level officials and residents in Beijing during a 2-day inspection tour, continuing the 14-year-long tradition of connecting with ordinary people ahead of the Spring Festival, the most significant occasion for the Chinese. Xi, also the General Secretary of the Communist Party of China Central Committee and the Chairman of the Central Military Commission, visited the Longfusi commercial area in Beijing, learning about festival market supplies and urban renewal efforts. She wished the people good health, success in their careers and happiness for their families in the year of the horse, and wished the country peace and prosperity. Asian stocks registered strong gains on Thursday, led by Japanese equities and broader tech sectors as markets built on recent upside momentum. Japan's market benefited from political stability following Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi's election win, pushing the Nikkei index to another record high above the 58,000 mark. South Korea's Kospi rose on strong tech and export stocks, climbing past 5,400. Chinese indices also moved higher, supported by improving economic data and policy measures. The strong U.S. labor report diminished expectations of an early Federal Reserve interest rate cut, pushing treasury yields higher and lending support to the dollar. Investors now turn to US inflation data later this week, which could influence global interest rate expectations and market direction. The US government posted a $95 billion budget deficit in January, down about 26% from a year earlier as revenue growth outpaced spending. Treasury data showed receipts rose to $560 billion, up 9% year on year, while outlays climbed more modestly to $655 billion, up just 2%. The improved deficit figure reflects stronger tax collections, including a surge in custom duties and relatively slower federal spending growth. Adjusted for calendar shifts, the deficit would have been even lower, highlighting the impact of timing in benefits. For the first 4 months of the fiscal year that began October 1st, the cumulative deficit also narrowed compared with the same period last year, thanks to revenue outpacing costs. Despite the improvement in January, debt and deficit challenges remain a key issue for US fiscal policy. Oil prices climbed on Thursday as investors grew concerned about escalating tensions between the United States and Iran, boosting a risk premium in energy markets. Brent crude and the US crude both advanced about 0.3%, despite larger than expected US crude inventory builds. The gains followed comments from President Donald Trump after a meeting with Israeli leader saying negotiations with Tehran would continue, but warning of tough action if a deal fails. Analysts say ongoing West Asian geopolitical uncertainty could push oil higher if conflict risks escalate, while dip buying could emerge if tensions ease. Investors remain watchful of future US-Iran developments and their impact on global supply flows. Instagram's leader Adam Mosseri will testify in a Los Angeles court today over claims the app's design may harm young users. Plaintiffs say features like endless scroll addicted teen users and cause anxiety, citing internal Meta documents. Meta denies allegations, saying the platform focuses on safety and user control. CEO Mark Zuckerberg is expected to testify later. The case could set a precedent for similar lawsuits and intensify global debate on social media and children's mental health. TikTok has rolled out a new local feed in the US that uses users' precise location to show content about nearby events, dining, shopping, news, and more. The feature is opt-in and off by default, so users must allow precise location sharing to see local posts. The local feed appeared earlier in Europe and now aims to connect communities and boost small business discovery. TikTok says it shows content based on location, topic match, and timing to give more relevant local updates. Critics note this raises privacy questions since it relies on more accurate location data, but users remain in control.